Hi, I'm Jessica G, and this is the Just in Time podcast. If you're struggling today, I want you to know this podcast is here for you, but it's not a substitute for professional help. If you're in a crisis or feel unsafe, please call or text 988 or dial 911 for immediate support. There are people out there who will listen and can help. On this show, I'll be sharing personal experiences, mindset shifts, talking with key experts, and sharing real tools that help me go from barely surviving to thriving. This is not about quick fixes or one-size-fits-all advice. It's raw, it's honest, it's what worked for me and what I believe can help others too. Let's walk together from darkness to hope. Thank you so much for joining Just in Time podcast. We're so happy that you're here. Right now, I would love for everybody to share this with a friend, tag us, post, cross-promote us. We need Just in Time to Save a Life. It needs support right now. So if you have a platform and this message touches you or you love our show, please like and subscribe. I don't always talk about that, but our podcast director was like, hey, you need to ask your audience to like and subscribe. So if you guys could do that, please help me in this mission to break the stigma, suicide prevention, and to help with mental health. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Today's episode is going to be called Thriving in Corporate America Without Losing Yourself. We all know that sometimes it's hard to balance our work, personal life. And so today we have Jessica Du Quesne here. She is a brand marketer and strategist working in corporate America for over 15 years, supporting Fortune 50 companies here in Northwest Arkansas. So Jessica, thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. You're such a bright light in this community, and I have seen you on so many different platforms, helping different nonprofits. You just have a heart of gold, and I am just thrilled that you're here today on the show.
Oh my gosh, what an intro. Thank you so much, Jessica. We're making it easy. Jessica. No,
yes.
People should not be confused. We're both Jessicas.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. And not only for the intro, but to ask me to join in this just wonderful topic that is mental health. This is so important, and your message is something that I think everyone should be listening to. And yes, I agree with that. Share, subscribe. It's something that people sometimes feel uncomfortable to talk about, but it shouldn't be. We should normalize talking about mental health because it just helps and touches everyone. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for thinking about these, and I'm really excited to be here.
Well, speaking of mental health, this just kind of rolls right into the question. You just said that, some people are scared to reach out. So in your corporate environment, I think a lot of people have probably fears about reaching out, saying, hey, I'm struggling with my mental health, because maybe they don't want to lose their job or, something like that. What is your take on that? And what would you say to someone that is struggling, that's in corporate America right now and is struggling with their mental health?
I think that's a very important question, because I think that there's two phases of it. Like, people, they have a true fear of sharing any struggle that they have on a personal level, right? Take away the corporate America part. People don't want to share that they're struggling, that they have problems, because they don't want to be the person with like the little black cloud over them. I think that they pick because they think that they're going to bring people down, that they're going to bring, there's a stigma to it. You have to be happy, you have to smile.
Yes.
Everything has to be fine. In corporate America, you add the layer of performance, right? And so it's not that it's publicly said in a corporate environment, you have to not say anything and suck it up. Yes, more about like, so everybody's performing at a really high level, especially we think about this region. Yeah. In Northwest Arkansas, where we are, you have, this huge headquarters of big corporations like Walmart, J.B. Hunt, Tyson.
High achieving professionals.
Yeah. Because in order to lead teams, because not only you have them, right? So, and then you have other suppliers that have big offices here. We're talking about like the Mars, the Hershey's, the Disney's, the General Mills, great companies. What an exciting time to be in this area. But in order to lead those teams, you have to be the top of the top. And so again, you are in an environment where everybody's performing at a really high level. So then you are in that environment. You want to be part of that group. So then the bar gets raised a little higher than any other places. And with it, you go onto that bar, into that performance level. So then you want to be like them. You don't want to be the person that says, I cannot handle this. I cannot do the job.
And I think one of the things that we were talking about earlier when we were brainstorming for the show was there's a difference between just a regular workload. Like you said, you may have a big project that's coming out. So you may work more hours in one week than you do another. Or it's the holidays, like in my industry, the holidays are very busy. Everybody wants to get in to get their hair done, to look good for those holiday parties, So, across the board, the workload can just kind of be a little bit uneven. But there's one other aspect where maybe one person is doing the work of two people because maybe one person left. And I want to get into a little bit about, as an employee, how do you speak up? What is the correct way to do that? And what would your advice be to somebody that is working maybe 16 hours a day, but they're really only getting paid their 9 to 5. How should they speak up about that?
Yeah, that is something that I've heard many times by many people. And sometimes it's not about one employee left and then you're picking up the slack.
Right.
Sometimes that is your workload.
Yeah.
It starts with this amount of work, and then all of a sudden, because you're really good, then it's like you take another project and another project. And like you said, sometimes it's okay. There's seasons where it's okay to do it.
Right.
But it's not sustainable to do it all the time. I've heard so many people say, I was so burned out doing so much at work. And then I went to a different place and then they backfill my role with two people.
Yeah.
So they knew all along that, that job was for two people. Yeah. So when you speak up, just going a little bit back on your question, when you speak up, make sure that when you talk to your supervisor, you do have everything documented. How many hours you spend on something, how much is needed.
So come very specific. Don't just say, I'm tired, this is too much. You need to be very specific so they take you serious.
Always be very specific because they're going to ask.
Because they probably also have a really high workload.
Everybody is operating at such a high level that they're going to say, what is taking you so many hours to do? And if you explain it correctly, there are two options. Either your manager is going to say, okay, either I'm going to have someone help you, or maybe they will help you if they can and they have the bandwidth, or let's make it the case to bring someone else. And sometimes you do have to build that business case, so you give it to leadership. And so again, I believe that there's a lot of good managers out there that they don't want their people to burn out, that they don't want their people to leave because they trust them. They actually believe in the support and the work they're doing. So by having all this documentation and sharing that with your manager, then you're opening that door for them to do that.
Yes.
So on the other side, from the management side, I think it's very important to create a culture where your employee feels comfortable sharing that truth.
Right.
I think that is one of the big deals, right? Because if you don't feel that you're in a safe environment, the culture doesn't allow you to speak that, then you're never going to be able to solve that problem. Yeah. And then we go again into I work too long, too many hours. Yeah. I have all this emotional burden on me. I have to perform. I need to look like I'm okay, but you're not. Yeah. And so that's part of the responsibility of the employer.
And that brings something to mind too. It's I hear people all the time, they're like, I have this deadline, and they're exhausted and they're overworked, but they've never said anything, right? And so they just quit and they go to another job. Well, say maybe that work culture at that specific place wasn't great, but now they're at a different work environment where the work culture is good, but that employee is just afraid and doesn't have the courage to say, hey, this workload is too much. So I think what Jessica is saying today is if you do feel burned out, overworked, and you haven't spoken up, just make sure that you do build your case, document everything, document your hours, and then hopefully, there will be changes made. I think that's really great advice. And it is scary to speak up, because and when you are overworked, that does affect, your overall well-being and your joy and your mental health. And I think that when employees are happy and not overworked, they're actually going to perform probably at higher levels.
I think when employee
is that how you do it? Because I know you're like the best, Jess.
Thank you. So I think that that is so true.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, most people that leave a company because they felt that they were overworked and not recognized, they leave a company because of what the culture made them feel, how they felt in that company. And again, I don't want to take any responsibility like from one or the other group. I want to make sure that we share this.
Yes.
Leadership has also a responsibility to make sure that their employees are working at a sustainable level. They are responsible to talk to them and understand how they really are doing.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not like, did you meet your deadline? Did you finish your project? But it's like, how are you really doing? Yeah. And I'm not saying everybody has to be a therapist, because they do not.
Yeah.
But a little bit of like empathy and emotional intelligence goes a long way so that you feel good to open up and share that information. Because if you're not opening that door as a leader, then your employee either, like, they can have all the documentation, but they're not going to feel safe to come forward and talk to you.
I know that you run like multiple teams kind of internationally as well. How do you notice burnout in teams that you're working with, and how do you address that?
So through the years, I definitely have gotten better at recognizing it. Yeah, I think that when you're younger in your career, even if you have a team of people that are supporting you, you are also trying to prove yourself. You know, you're going in a grind, and everybody's like, okay,
the corporate ladder,
we're gonna do it. Yes, we're gonna make it. We're gonna win this award. We're gonna, we're gonna get this customer. We're gonna reach this, this metric, this KPIs. But as you keep going, you start recognizing certain patterns. Like I've noticed that when employees at the beginning, you have their excitement, their joy, their communication. Yeah. And then slowly they start holding back. Mm-hmm. They seem a little bit more distant, withdrawn, distracted. Yeah. And sometimes it's like they're separating themselves from the company. They become really professional. Yeah. Then you know that something is, you understand that something is off, in addressing that as soon as you recognize the change is very important, because that's the beginning. It's them without saying anything. Yes. It's them like showing that they are like, they're losing that passion, and you need to address that.
And that can be caused not just from, work environment, that could be from things that are going on at home that may be impacting them, because we're human. Yes, we're high performing individuals, and we're grinding, and we're machines, and we're, hitting numbers and all those things that you talk about. But I think sometimes, like you said, emotional intelligence goes a long ways. If somebody is struggling with their mental health, and they come to you and the workload is too much, what is something that you say, or what resources are out there that corporate companies may have or may not have, or maybe should have?
So I think it all depends on your role, right? Yeah. So let's say in the situation that would happen in my team, I think that we are all, I would say, first of all, my team is very aware of this type of burnout and, people getting exhausted, and they are very good at helping out and jumping in. Yeah. We have a leader that really, her first question whenever we go, and I would say I'm blessed with that, every time we go on a one-on-one, and I have ready my list of, all the accomplishments and everything, that follow-ups and questions. Yeah. Goes, okay, before we start, how are you doing? She says, how are you actually really doing? Yeah. Tell me. Everything good? Everything going on fine? How are you feeling in the team? Yeah. It is very important, because she doesn't want to hear anything about the work yet. The first 15 minutes, it's about that connection and understanding where you're at. I think that is very important. And then
it makes you just feel like you're not just a number, that somebody is actually caring about you.
I think that people underestimate how important it is for a person, a human being, to feel seen and heard. Yes. Even if you tell them at this moment, we do not have the resources, to help, but let me see what I can do.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you leave with a weight like lifted off your shoulders because you think, okay, she knows that I'm working too much and she knows that something needs to be done.
Yeah.
And it's just a different type of reaction when you leave that room that if they say, no, I mean, so maybe we should take the project from you and somebody else should do it. Or maybe this was too much for you. Then you feel like you're losing, you failed.
Right.
So... Yeah. And I will say in our team, we actually do share the work and support. And sometimes we're all busy, but small stuff that takes a lot of time, but it doesn't necessarily take, for example, filing things, downloading items, like entering numbers in an Excel spreadsheet, little things that can take away from that person focusing on strategic thinking.
Yeah.
So we help with those. So I think that having that culture of how we support each other in each team is something small that every team can do. But then, of course, there's policy changes, wellness weeks. There's a lot of other things that companies can do.
Let me ask you this. How do you think being a woman in the workplace impacts mental health, especially in leadership or high pressure roles?
I think that women have a really high impact when it comes to their professional side and being overachievers. It's hard to talk about because you're a woman, you're already having to prove, and I know that people are saying things are getting better. Yes, things are getting better in corporate America, but they could still improve. Women feel such an overload in their lives because not only you are in corporate America, you have to succeed, but don't complain that, but tomorrow I have, to go to my son's recital or my daughter's recital or the soccer game or my child is sick, so I have to stay home. I don't have a babysitter.
Yeah.
These are things that it's not, we're not saying that corporations don't understand or your bosses, but you don't want to say. So we've taken this, we want to do it all and we were the strong ones.
Yeah.
We take it to another level.
Yeah.
And then we go home and we take care of our home and the kids. And it's just a lot to take in. And we think, okay, because I'm strong, I say I'm a strong woman that can do anything and I don't need help. You do need help.
It's a lot.
I was a working mom. My kids are already older, so they're in college and out. But when my kids were younger, it was really hard. And sometimes I would be very overwhelmed, try to do everything at home. Whenever they were in bed, I would open my laptop to continue because then I didn't want people to think, because of your regular house responsibilities, you probably not finish, what, you were supposed to deliver, or you had to leave early because your kid is sick. Well, yes, but I still need to finish this. So again, women have a lot of pressure on themselves. And that is something that we all have to recognize.
Yeah.
But also as women, take responsibility to put ourselves first or we are going to burn out as well. We need to take some time for us to recharge.
So when you were, experiencing overwhelm in that moment, what are some of the things that you can share with our audience? So say you're a working mom out there and you are climbing the ladder in corporate America. Jessica, what is your advice for, or what did you do?
So what I did might not be what works for everyone, but I think that it's just a good path. So someone very smart, an old manager, wasn't even a manager in that company, was from a previous job, who became my mentor, a male, actually.
Yeah.
He said, Jessica, you need to make time for yourself and think about what are the things that give you joy.
Yeah.
Because that is your battery life.
I think you mentioned whenever you experience burnout, right? Because I think one of the questions we talked about was, you're a high achieving professional, you're at the top of your ladder. And, I think that you experience burnout a little differently, right? So that, and burnout looks different for each person. And I believe you said something about the one indicator or the sign was that you started to lose your joy.
Right.
You were doing the job, your work was great, but you noticed that your joy was gone.
Yes, that was actually very telling. So yeah, I am grateful that I am in a career that I've always enjoyed.
Yeah.
It provides a creative escape for me, and I just find it fun, interesting, and also challenging.
Yeah.
It's always been the same path, but just different roles in different places. And so I've always felt excited whenever I would go to work and think about something new and just doing and delivering. But there was a time where I remember going to work and I did not feel the same excitement. I would look at a project and say, oh, well, this is not going to work out. You know, and then I started seeing holes in everything instead of having that optimism of like, what is the solution? I mean, I still was delivering.
Yeah.
I was still hitting all my deadlines, you know, giving everything to leadership that they needed.
But you noticed that.
But I noticed that there was like no joy like behind it. And then I knew, I was like, okay, there is something off with me right now. And I noticed that it was, my joy was for the work was leaving me.
So catching those things early, I think, is important.
Absolutely. When you start feeling it like a drag and that you feel like you don't love what you're doing anymore, that is a sign. Listen to your body, listen to your...
Don't just push it aside, because you could have just pushed it aside, right?
Yes. For a minute.
Or a job that you actually love.
Yes. You're like, I love this job. What am I doing?
And I think
grateful.
And I think I see this a lot across multiple industries. You know, you get in and sometimes like it can be too much sometimes. And even in my industry with, you know, owning a salon, I see stylists that love doing hair, and maybe a project for them or a hair appointment didn't go right for them. 2-3 years into the job, you know, they're like, I just lost my joy. I don't want to do this anymore. And they quit. And I'm thinking, don't do that. Don't do that. So like what you're saying speaks to, I think, so many people. So I think recognizing, hey, something's wrong here. Okay, so what's the next steps, Jess? What did you do?
Well, so for me, it was like finding time for myself. So things that I enjoy and love that give me actually happiness are, number one, I love working out. Yeah. It just makes me happy. Like when I leave a workout class, I'm like so excited. I feel like I can conquer the world, but that's me, right? Yeah. I love walking outside, like by myself, listening to music down the trails. And I even remember, and this is a moment where I had stopped working out. I've stopped going walking before.
Because you were working a lot more.
Because I was working so much. And so, but I thought that was the way to do it. You know, like said, you know, like I'm going to put this on pause because there's so much going on. Yeah. And I just told myself that was good. But then I started feeling energized every time I would come back from the workout. Then when I would come back from my walks, even listening to music, listening to a podcast, listening to a book, I would be like, okay, that's a great idea. Wow, this person said this in this way. And it would help me with ideas for even my job, or like how to like present something in leadership, you know, when I was listening to books, to other podcasts. Yeah. So it just filled my creativity. And I started smiling more. When I went to the office, I would tell people, I have an idea. Listen to me. And they're like, okay. So it really changed without me intentionally saying, okay, this is the moment where I started and this is the moment where joy came back. Yeah. It slowly came back. And then I'm like, no, I truly do love this job. I was feeling that I lost my job. And you say, like, sometimes it crosses your mind. Do I really need to be in this industry? Maybe I need to do something else. Maybe I reached the point that...
Well, and some people make snap decisions.
And a lot of people make snap decisions. Yes. And then they're like, okay, maybe that was just a moment.
Right. Or they don't realize it for years.
Mm-hmm. So if I would have been doing all that and feeling like myself again, and then still go to work and said, maybe I need to look for my next adventure. Yeah. At least you could make a decision from peace and not and not chaos and feeling pressured. Yeah. Which is, again, like it's part of your mental health, right? Be in the right place in order to make a big decision for your life. So that helped me. Hopefully that helps others. What makes you joy? It could be painting. Yeah. I mean, like hanging out with your friends more. It's just many different things.
Yeah. What would you say to someone in a demanding job who feels emotionally exhausted or alone right now?
Oh, I would tell them your output doesn't define your value.
I love that.
Your title is not your worth.
Yes.
You know, like your peace is the most important part. Yeah. A lot of us get so hung up on like performance, and they think whatever you perform or all the metrics and successes that you achieve, that is your value. Also, your title.
Yeah.
If you are vice president, director, chief executive officer of something, then you're worth more. Yeah. And they fight so much to go.
I'm so glad that you brought this up because I don't know where I heard this from, but
so when
your worthiness doesn't depend on what you do. Now, your value does, but you're worthy whether you sit on a couch and eat potato chips or you are at work being a high-performing professional. You are worthy regardless. Now, the value you bring to the world and others depends on your output, but everybody is worthy. Every single person is worthy.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I
think that's why people get hired for jobs. It's because of their value.
Yeah.
Everybody's worthy, but different people create different value. And that's why there's different job roles.
But I will say, don't make that your identity.
Exactly.
I think that because we spend 40 plus hours in our office or behind our desk.
Take that vacation.
Yeah. Go to Greece.
Yeah. Go do that workout. Get that massage.
Recommend it. And so
go to Petty.
Everything that makes you happy, like don't make your work your identity because so many people, because they spend so much time at work, then that becomes who they are. Your job is what you do.
Yes.
Not who you are.
Yes.
And that is so important because if we don't define like that, imagine corporate America is going right now. A lot of companies are going through a lot of changes, a lot of transitions, mergers. There's a lot of layoffs.
Yeah.
And they are not thinking, Jessica, it's you. We are cutting this because of you. Maybe some cases, maybe not, but in general, especially in transitions, it's a number. It is a role that they eliminate. And so if you have made your job your identity, how is that going to affect you?
I think that's dangerous.
Emotional level.
I think that's dangerous.
You're going to feel like your value already has disappeared. And that it will really affect your emotional.
Well, and I think, with older white men, they're one of the highest statistics for suicide. And usually it's a perfect storm. Mm-hmm. So there could be a divorce. The guy could lose his job. So when mental health issues, there could be like physical issues, health issues. But sometimes that perfect storm and some of the last things that I hear is like, all these other things are falling apart and then the person loses their job. And then, time and time again, I hear, oh, so-and-so died. And, I think that, you're right. When you are tied to your identity, I think that may hit you harder and stronger. So it's really important that you brought that up.
I have, several girls that I mentor. And sometimes when they are in the moments of looking for a job or they've lost their job, they come to me and they say, I don't know what to do because this is all I did. And what we think, the way I approach it with them is like, okay, we're going to do an audit of your skill set.
Yeah.
Forget about your job title, forget what you did. Because what you're telling me is that all that is worth right now is what you did in this specific job.
I feel like you should be a life coach, Jess.
Maybe. And so
I think you have a new calling here.
I believe so too. And so what we do is like make sure that they can translate into, there's many other places where they can find, a career. And they don't have to identify themselves just with one.
I think you're so good at finding skill sets in people. I've known you through the years, and I see you, the way you interact with people and the way you speak to people, and you point out certain people's skill sets. Like you have a really good eye for that. And people that may be underpaid actually, in a job that they're in right now, it's like, whoa. You don't need to be doing this job. You have this skill set. So
I think through the years of meeting people and just like interacting with everyone, what I realized is that you have to like look deeper into the person because there's some things that they have that you cannot teach. They just have them. Like the way people talk to other people or like they read the room and interact with others. Sometimes that's innate. You can teach some of that, but a lot of them are born with it. And that is such a strong skill set to have. There's many other, I can list so many other skill sets.
Yeah.
Just letting people know, listen, I can see you. I see who you are.
Yeah.
Let's put that to your skill set into to benefit these other jobs, careers, paths. You have many options. This is not it. It's not the end of the world.
And I think that's really important, so if you're out there and you're looking for a job, think about what Jess is saying is think about the different skill sets that you have. And, what comes to mind is why don't you ask people around you, hey, what skill sets do you think I have? Because 9 out of 10 times, and what I see you do sometimes, even with me, is you point out things in me that I didn't even realize that I had. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. I do have that skill set. And so you're a very empowering person, and I think sometimes, we don't see that in ourselves, right? It's easy. Sometimes it's easy to see in other people and not so much in ourselves even. But so I would say, think about that. So if you're looking for a job, maybe ask loved ones around you, what are you really good at? Especially if you're feeling down, because I think that could be important to finding your next job or the right fit. And then also we talked about culture, right? We wanted to make sure we talked about culture today. So, when you are interviewing companies or companies are interviewing you, for me, for my company, I always make sure that our morals and our values are aligned, because if those two things aren't aligned, it's just not going to work. And because of the type of culture that I want to create for my salon. And I think, we talked earlier about how I hear a lot of people saying, hey, I talked to my boss about this. I told them I'm completely struggling and they're not doing anything about it. Or they say they're looking for somebody, but it's been 4 months and this person's working 16 hours a day and they're burnt out and they really want to quit, but they need that job. I think, it's important to make sure when you're looking for a company that you look at the culture too. What are some key things like that they can look for, signs that they can look for in a healthy culture or a healthy corporate environment?
Well, I will look at it from a different perspective as well. I think it's very important that each person understands what are the values that they have. Yep. So if you don't know your own values, your non-negotiables, it's very hard to go and demand that from someone.
Yeah.
Right. So, or check for, because every company is going, they've all done their homework. Yeah. Everybody has their values, their mission statement.
Yeah.
Right. And so then when you read it, I would say everyone's that I've read, they look very impactful.
But are they actually that too?
Well, are they actually that, or do they align with what you believe in?
Yeah.
So one example that I give, which it's a little bit, I'm not going to say that it's not relevant to this, but it's different. It's a different area, like nonprofits.
Yes.
I feel that every nonprofit has a very important mission.
Yes.
And that every single person that they help is important.
Yes.
There is not one that is more important than the other. Maybe there's one that has affected more people, but I think one life is important. So if one affects one people, 1 million lives are important. Right. But you have to choose where your heart is. You cannot volunteer to 100 nonprofits because then you're just giving 15 minutes to each.
Yeah.
So figure out what is where your heart is. So figure out what your values are. Yep. Figure out where your heart is. If what you're looking for is in a company that values, let's say, diversity, inclusion, even though now that's apparently on the side, but depending on the city there, a company that likes to travel or is global, a company that supports moms, that has a great, maternity leave and paternity leave. So
ask the questions and
ask the questions. What matters?
Research, yes.
Do you care if they give back part of their earnings to a good cause?
Yes.
Maybe that is important for you. And maybe the cause is something that is close to your heart.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, look at their values, look if they're aligned to yours. Now, values and mission, different than company culture, right? So the company culture, then you got to investigate as well.
Yeah.
Is it just a slogan on the wall that you walk in and everybody's like, wow, that's great? Or are they living that company culture? People feel free to be themselves. Yeah. I would say ask people.
Yeah.
You not only have to ask the questions to the person interviewing you.
Yes.
because obviously they're going to tell you everything that is great with them. But ask around, what do you think about this company culture? How do they live their culture? What do their employees feel about it? And then make your own assessment, right? Like, what is good for you and what's not.
Is the corporate environment in Northwest Arkansas very competitive?
Very, very competitive.
Okay.
Yes.
So for someone that's new starting out, I hear, hey, it took me a year to get a job.
I would say,
sometimes, or even a higher up position, it can take 6 months to a year to get a job. I have been on several interviews, this and that. It's like, you may find that company, oh, I love this company, but they didn't choose you.
It's very hard. Yeah, I will say this area has some of the top performers in the nation, which is wonderful, obviously. But of course, there is some level of competitiveness. And when you have a pool of people, right, that are all great, then you're going to think about what distinguishes them, what stands out.
Right.
And I mean, it's competitive out there. I wouldn't say people don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Like if it's competitive, just find out what is that makes you stand out? What is that you can give? How do you can become chosen out of the group?
Yeah.
That also going back to know your skill set.
Yeah.
Know what you bring to the table. When you sit at the table, you should be prepared to let them know who you are and what is your corporate value, right, at that moment. If you can't explain it to them, then they won't ever know. So, but don't get disappointed. Don't get discouraged. It could take a minute, but once you get that job and get that experience, it's going to be easier to move or stay at the role that you like. My message, I guess, for everyone would be, it is very hard whenever you are in a top performing job. Yes. We understand that.
Yes.
It is hard to be the person that says, I can't do this or this is too much.
Well, we were talking about, what you may be able to handle.
Right.
The next person may not be able to handle. Exactly. So like knowing and like, if you are in a high level, there is going to be more demand. So knowing yourself and we just talked about this in the last podcast where I had an anxiety attack. I was at a high performing salon, Jose Bear in Beverly Hills. Mm-hmm. I was one of the head assistants. I had my first anxiety attack there. And, everything had to be just so. And at the time, I had to take a 3-month break because it was so much,
But your body needed that.
But I was, I was young. I was 19 or 20 years old. And so I think it's really important, like you just said, knowing, sometimes you don't know what you can handle though. You're new, you're fresh out of college, you got this awesome job, you're excited, you want to do it all.
You can do it.
Yeah, exactly. You might be from a different country.
Yeah.
You might have an accent.
Yes. You're like, I can do it.
And so there might be more challenges for you than there may be for somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And so you never know what somebody is going through or what that experience looks like for them. Like this may be really tough for this person, but this other person is like, it's not that bad. Everybody handles things so differently. So I think it's hard to know what you can handle when you're young too.
It's very hard, but
it's important to never give up.
Yeah. I also want to make sure that people don't think that every time that you feel that you're struggling or everything, you need to tell the company that you work for.
Right.
You don't have to. There's private that is like everybody has to handle it. But the important part is that you recognize it.
Yeah.
So the self-awareness piece is very important. And then how you communicate that, if the communication is going to help you, like I need support, I need someone to step up and take this project away from me.
Yes.
Or I think this job is for 2 people. We need resources in this team and have that conversation as the professional that you are. That is important.
Yeah.
Now, if you feel like, because sometimes issues at work have like create high anxiety and depression. There's like, as you know, like studies that link that.
Yeah. So, or if you're having thoughts of suicide, like, or, thinking about that daily, like that is the time to definitely like reach out and get the help you need. That is a crisis, you know?
I would say at that time, you need to like really think about like reaching out for help, definitely talking to your loved ones.
Yes.
And reaching out again, maybe
to your support
evaluate if you need to talk to a therapist.
Call 988. It's a free hotline. They will talk to you until you feel better, or they will get you connected to a resource. And it's completely confidential for so people that are in corporate America and they are worried, okay, I don't want my employer to know. This is a really great resource. If you are struggling, call 988. It is completely confidential. And you can ask all the questions that you need to ask. But I think the important thing here is just to never give up, because it's not worth it. And when you are in a crisis, your brain isn't working correctly. Or if you're depressed or you've been working a 16-hour day and you have lack of sleep, your brain is not working correctly and you're not going to be able to make and think clearly. And I think that's when the perfect storm can happen and people die by suicide or start going down that really dark road. And so I think it's really important, like you said, hey, I just noticed, you know what, I'm not as joyful anymore. Catching it in the very early signs. And that's what true prevention really is. And that is the definition of taking care of your mental health, you know? And so I am so happy that you came on the show and you're vulnerable and talked about some of your struggles in corporate America and what you did to make a difference. I think that, you are such a role model to this community here in Northwest Arkansas. And I think a lot of people look up to you. And I think that you have a lot of impact.
Thank you.
And you do make a big impact, not only on me, but I think the people that I see around us and in this community. We're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Corporate America is so lucky to have you.
Thank you so much. I just want everybody to know, struggling, feeling that you're burning out, feeling stressed, it's okay. It's not a weakness. Yeah, it's not going to make you perform any work.
And there's different levels to that. Exactly. There's different levels to it. You might not be at that level 10, like Jessica was talking about earlier. You might just be at level 1. But just like you said, just having that awareness, where am I at? How am I feeling? And if you, are a supervisor and you are the one interviewing people, I love that. Hey, checking in. How are you doing?
Yeah.
How's it going? Making sure. And I think companies are doing a better job at that. But it's kind of the world we live in.
Yeah. Many companies are offering now this free 10 sessions, like free.
Yes.
Call in this number. And
yes.
What I hear is that not a lot of people use them.
Yes.
They're free. And they're 10 sessions where you can talk to a counselor, a therapist, and you can talk about anything. And it's absolutely confidential.
Oh my gosh.
I think that is such a important way to for companies that are putting those resources in.
Yes.
And if you need it, there's no shame in that. Do it.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that reminds me of a client that came in the other day and she was seriously struggling, and she is a high performing individual and she works for Walmart, and shout out to Walmart because they really helped her. They let her, I believe, take a month or 2 off, and also paid for some type of counseling sessions. She was experiencing major burnout and she'd been saying it, and they helped her. And I was really happy to see that, because I could tell when she sat in my chair, hey, something's wrong. And I'm such an empath, and I'm and I notice it. And I see all you executives come in with your laptops and work while you're doing your hair. You won't even sit back and relax and get a shampoo. I have to take your computers away. It's a tug of war.
True.
You know who you are out there. It's every one of you. Yeah. And I'm just relax at this part, because we all care and we want to do well and perform well and all that. But it is so important to take care of ourselves. But hey, at least you're getting your hair done, feeling good about yourself. There you go.
You leave it so long, you feel like a new person.
Exactly. You can do 10 more hours of work.
Yeah.
No, but I think that is really important. And I am really happy, to hear that companies are starting to instill and really care more about people's mental health. So thank you so much for being here. And again, you guys, the nonprofit, this is the first time I've asked for help on the podcast. Please share, subscribe, send this to someone that is burnout at work, if your neighbor next to you is burnout, or you're noticing signs that they're just not engaging, they've withdrawn, send this to them or reach out. And always remember that 988, it's the crisis hotline. It's always there for you, and it is confidential for you high performing individuals. Remember, and for, people that are new in corporate America, that is also super intense because you're learning a whole new set of skill sets and you're trying to figure out who you are. So have some grace for yourself, have faith, have believe, #roar, reach out and rise if you need help. And again, Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was great. Thank you.
If you're struggling, remember, how you think is how you feel. If your feelings feel heavy, start by shifting the thought. You're not stuck. Your brain can change. So can your story. I'm Jessica G. This is the Just in Time podcast, and I'll see you next time. Until then, keep going, never give up, and remember, the world is better with you in it, whether you believe it or not. To help reach others, please share this with your friends, family, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and donate.